It's Friday, and before I get into my thought for today, I wanted to remind you that Sunday is our harvest service. We're going to be collecting toiletries and food for the food bank and taking up an offering for the work of BMS in Chad. If you're coming to the church buildings on Sunday, there'll be envelopes provided for you to make donations. If you're not going to be with us in person, you can send donations to the church or to Vera. Just make sure they're clearly marked for BMS. The other thing to let you know is that our daily thoughts are going to be a bit different next week. After we've heard about some of the work of BMS on Sunday, we're going to be giving over our daily thoughts each day next week to BMS missionaries who are working across the world. We're going to hear a bit about how they are serving God, sharing his love and supporting communities in the places he has called them to be. So do keep an eye out for those updates next week. Today, though, is the final day in our series from the last 3 weeks on living questionable lives. We've thought about how we're called as followers of Jesus to live in such a way that people are prompted to talk to us about it, to ask why we behave differently. We've thought about how Jesus lived and the way in which he lived would cause people to question him. We've talked about turning the things we should do as God's people into disciplined habits. Not waiting for the opportunity to do a good turn, but planning in ways to bless others. Making opportunities to do those good turns. We've thought about how turning these things into deliberate, regular habits can have a huge impact on our walk with God and on our relationships with others. This week we have been particularly thinking about turning blessing others into a godly habit. How can we bless others through words of affirmation, acts of kindness, gifts of love and encouragement? To be honest, I've not got much more to add to any of this other than to remind you of our motivation. For God so loved the world, it says in John 3, that he gave his one and only Son, that whoever believes in him shall not perish but have eternal life. For God did not send his Son into the world to condemn the world, but to save the world through him. Whoever believes in him is not condemned, but whoever does not believe stands condemned already because they've not believed in the name of God's one and only Son. This is the verdict. Light has come into the world, but people love darkness instead of light because their deeds were evil. Everyone who does evil hates the light and will not come into the light for fear that their deeds will be exposed. But whoever lives by the truth comes into the light so that it may be seen plainly that what they have done has been done in the sight of God. Our motivation to live questionable lives, our motivation to bless others, is God's great gift of Jesus to us. Because of what he has done, we are called to live by truth. And we are called to draw others into the light of his love as well. So I'll ask once more, as I have done more than once over the last 3 weeks, how questionable is your life? How are you developing godly habits? How are you responding to the loving gift of God? How are you sharing that gift with others?